Hello students, once again welcome back to biology class. Myself Dr. Raghavendra here. Well, in the earlier class we have discussed about what is biodiversity. Yes, it is the sum of all the living organisms, yes, at a different levels of the biological organization what we have studied. So, the earth is called a biosphere because of having lots of living organisms in it. Fine. So we have discussed about the global biodiversity as well as the Indian biodiversity also we studied. Fine. So in today's class, yes, we will be discussing about mainly patterns of biodiversity, that some of the concepts, some of the points we have studied in the earlier class. When we say the patterns of biodiversity, yes, it is mainly based on the latitudinal gradients as well as the biodiversity in Amazon forest. And then so there is one more important concept such as a species area relationship. So we are going to discuss one by one. So to say you, when I talk about the latitudinal gradients as such, just to make you once again aware of that. So if this is in fact the earth should be somewhat better, let us make it a better earth. So this is the earth as we know. The earth is having its equator, then Tropic of Cancer, Tropic of Capricorn is here, and the Greenland has a 71 degree and then New York has 41 degree, it is mentioned in this. So how to localize? Definitely the equator always considered as a 0 degree on the other side, and then yes, here we can say that it is the north and it is the south, and it is the east and here is the west we say. So when we talk about northwest, southeast, southwest, how it is mentioned? So from here the degree values keep on continuing. So what we say that it is a 45 degree and here it is a 90. Similarly, it is 45 degree and it is 90. So like this, the Greenland location somewhere comes here, somewhere 71 degree, somewhere here is the Greenland. And then when I talk about New York, somewhere it is 41 degree here, the New York, the North America, and then yes, it is the South America like this. So this is what we say the location of the mainly the places based on these latitudinal gradients. So when there is a 41 degree means very closer to the equator, so species richness is very high. Number of the birds, 104 species you will find in the New York, but 56 species of birds you will find in the Greenland because it is towards the polar region. As we move towards the pole, species richness go down. So 0 degree, 90 degree, 0 degree, and here also the south 90 degree we can say. So here also it is a south 90 degree. Like this, location of a particular place is localized based on the latitudinal gradients. Fine. So Colombia has mainly more number of species like 1400 birds when we compare with the India, because Colombia is somewhere very closer to the equator. India is a little bit above the level of equator. So we have yes very closer number of bird species, but the India may be having less number of bird species compared with the Colombia. So this is you need to remember how basically mainly the number of species are varying based on the geographic conditions. So Ecuador is a country. Ecuador is a country, yes, in the South America, yes, here on the equator only it comes. And it has 10 times more number of species than the Midwest America. So this is what we say Midwest of America may be having less number of species as well as Ecuador is having more number of species. This is what we say the pattern of species distribution. Well, I hope this point is very clear. When we talk about, when we look at the Amazon jungles, yes, mainly in the South America only, we find the Amazon jungles and then Amazon forest. sometimes referred as mainly the lungs of the earth globe or the earth. So why? Because more number of plants, so highest vegetation as well as a rich species, yes, we can find over there. So what are those more number of species we can find in the mainly the Amazon forest as such? Number of plants, somewhere around 40,000 species of plants we can find in the Amazon forest. Number of fish species, they can be 3,000. Number of bird species, they can be 1,300. And number of mammals, yes, and number of amphibians, they can be 427 number of species of each. And number of reptilian species, somewhere around 378 species. These highest number of animal species we can find in the Amazon forest. Why? Because there is the favorable conditions that favors the survival of vertebrates as well as invertebrates. Now invertebrate species can be more or highest than any other, such as we find 1,25,000 species of invertebrates. So still nearly around 2 millions of insect species yet to be discovered. So Amazon forest yet to be explored in a proper way, and then we will be able to understand the existing number of species. So 2 millions means somewhere around 20 lakh of the insect species yet to be discovered in the Amazon forest. So this is what we say, the existence of variety of creatures, yes, mainly in the on this earth, what we say it as a biodiversity, and such earth with the variety of mainly the magnificent living forms we called as a biodiversity, and yes, biosphere. The earth is also called as a living planet. Fine. So this we understood very well. So now let us go ahead. What the next concept we are going to discuss? The next concept we will be discussing about a species area relationship. So it is again most important concept as such, species area relationship we are going to discuss. So here, as we say that the geographic area, it keep increasing, yes, we can say that up to some extent. The geographic area keep increasing, number of species also may keep increasing, but it cannot be always the same. If you think that the desert has more, okay, the surface, the more geographic coverage we can say, but number of species in the desert definitely will be less when we compare it with the tropical forest. That's what we say. Yes. So who gave this species area relationship? So under biodiversity we are going to study species area relationship. So species area relationship well studied by Alexander von Humboldt. Okay, Alexander von Humboldt, a German biologist and geographer. He extensively explored the extensively explored the wilderness of the South American jungles. Okay. He studied variety of species. So he studied variety of species that includes mainly the plants, vertebrates, and invertebrates. Invertebrates. Well, so he gave an important concept of a species area relationship curve, we can say. So, considering here, the species area relationship can be studied. So, this is the y-axis and this is the x-axis. So, one side it is species richness, y-axis represents species richness and the x-axis represents the area and species richness. So the species richness is basically dependent variable, a component which is dependent on what? Area. So area is independent variable. So it is not depend on the amount of species. Area is an independent variable. What happens? We keep on covering variety of areas. Yes, we find in this number of square feet or square kilometers, we find these one or two species. We may find some more species here. We may find again few more species. We may find the species like this. So, number of species may keep increasing or keep decreasing also. So, what we say is number of species may keep increasing or decreasing. When we coincide all these points, yes, what we get? We get a rectangular hyperbola. So, this is a rectangular hyperbola. So, this rectangular hyperbola represents the number of species. But if we put an intercept here against the y, so this is what we say log to log scale. Log to log scale. It is also called as the slope, we say. So, this is log to log scale or the slope. Fine. So, this rectangular hyperbola, which is mainly a account of number of species in a particular area. So, it is represented as, this is represented as S is equal to C a to the power Z. So, C, S is equal to C to the C multiplied by a to the power Z. And this slope is represented as log S is equal to log C plus Z log A. So, logarithmic table and the value is taken. Means what we find in the wild condition, what we find in the forest, we are going to plot it on a graph and we are going to represent it. Yes, visualizing this on the paper, what it is called the species area relationship curve, or the equation here S is equal to C multiplied by A to the power of Z, or log S is equal to log C plus Z log A. What is these abbreviations are mainly indicating? So to say that, yes, let me tell you what is this S indicates. So S is mainly species richness. Species richness. Then what is this A? A indicates it is mainly the area. And then what is this C? C is y-intercept. Y-intercept. So the whatever the value showed in the y-axis, and it can be well understood when we put an intercept here. So y-intercept we say. And then what is this Z? Z indicates regression. Regression coefficient. What is this regression coefficient? It is a factor which correlates the values of y as well as x. Okay, so it is a correlating factor, means yes, regression coefficient correlates. So correlating factor of mainly the dependent and independent variable. Dependent and independent variables. So that's ultimately what we can find. Yes, after implementing this formula, yes, to the equal to the c is mainly what, y-intercept value into a area to the power of the z is a correlation factor that can be, yes, well calculated by using the equation log s, logarithmic value of the s is equal to log c plus z log a. So this is what we call it as mainly the species area relationship curve or yes. So thus when we talk about the z value, so what is the z value indicate? Z value indicate the species area relationship value. So as such, the small geographic regions, so when we say that small geographic regions and species, okay, species count, fine, we are thinking of this. Say for example Britain with number of plant species, then California with the bird species, then New York with the molluscan species. So their account, the geographic area is smaller and number of species also, yes, we may expect we will be less only. So under such situation, say for example what we will get, so z can be represented as a slope. The slope is slant, we can say. So slant slope, okay, the slant slope, or it is a y-intercept, it is the value of a number of species. So we can say that, so it can be a slightly much more slant. So here number of species and even the area. So a small area we are considering, a slant slope we get, that indicates yes, so low species number in small geographic area. So at that time the z value can be 0.1 to 0.2 only. So when we are considering a small geographic area, and if we consider the entire continent, so here what will happen? So now, yes, it is a small area. So area, when it becomes a continent, more number of species we find, and also yes, more number of species we may find, and the slope also steeper slope. The steeper slope indicates more number of species are more. So at that time what will be the z value? So z can be, so it can be 0.6 to 1.2. So it is an account of the entire continent, and the slope will be more steep also. This is, I hope you are understanding. Number of species keep increasing, slope become steeper. Number of species less, the slope become slant. A slant slope indicates a small geographic area. Number of species are less. That's why the value z is 0.1 to 0.2 only. when the entire continent, different countries you are considering, not only the Britain, not only the California, not only New York, entire whole continent you are considering, that time more number of species will increase and area wise also. That time, yes, we can say that steeper slope giving the value 0.6 to 1.2, that is the Z value. And if we consider the frugivores of all the countries, frugivores means what? They may be the fruit eating birds and bats. Frugivores. Frugivores, yes, mainly the fruit eating bats and birds. Bat and birds of all the countries of tropic region, of the trophic region, then the Z value will be 1.15. This is what we say, mainly the species area relationship curve. I hope you are understanding it. Let me once again summarize it properly. Species area relationship concept is given by Alexander von Humboldt. He is from Germany and he is a biologist and geographer. He extensively explored the forest of South America, especially the Amazon forest, and he understood the wilderness. So what he concluded, yes, he gave the he put the graph y-axis representing species richness, x-axis representing area. So as we keep on studying mainly the different kind of vertebrates, invertebrate plants he studied, he keep on putting the dots, means whatever the things or the species he studied in the forest, he put it on a paper in the form of a graph. What he found, and then he totally coincided those whatever the dots, and he got a rectangular hyperbola, and then he put an interceptor to identify the number of species, yes, the correlated with the area. So species correlating with the area, and he got a particular value for that. So this is what we say, and represented it in the form of equation S is equal to C to the power of so C multiplied by A to the power of Z. So it is also can be represented in the form of a slope, or the log to log scale is the values are taken, log S is equal to log C plus Z log A. What is this? S indicates species richness on the y-axis, A indicates area on the x-axis, C indicates this y-intercept, Z indicates the correlation between species richness and area. He also said that species richness keep increasing in a particular geographic area up to some extent, not always. So further, what happens when we talk about the regression coefficient, means we get a particular value of the Z. So this Z is the regression coefficient correlating between the mainly factors dependent. Species richness is a dependent factor on independent variables such as area. And then we get mainly the Z value. Imagine a small part of geographic region such as Britain with the plant species, California with the bird species, and New York with the molluscan species we are studying. So the values also we get because geographic area is small. That time we will get the less number of species, and also the slope what we are going to get is a very slant slope. The Z value can be 0.1 to 0.2 only. And if we consider the entire continent, it may be South America or North America or the Asia, you will have huge number of species. So the slope will become much more steeper. Z value can range between 0.6 to 1.2. And then if we consider the entire frugivores, so fruit eating bats, birds of all the nations which come under the tropical region or very close to the equator, then the Z value can be 1.15. This is what we say mainly species area relationship curve, which is given by Alexander von Humboldt. Well, so this gives us a clarity about mainly regarding the species area relationship. I hope the point is very clear now. Let us again study further concepts as such. So, well, this is all about the species area relationship, and one more point you need to, yes, remember that here species richness one more point, yes, you need to note down. Species richness keep increasing as the area increases, but only up to some extent. Why he said like this? Because if we keep on thinking that area wise it is very high, yes, we are thinking the area of a continent, take the Saharan region of the Africa, area is very high. Even we can take that mainly plain lands or the grasslands or savanna forest, yes. So there we can find large surface area, but number of species definitely will be less only. So only it is been said that definitely when we find lots of geographic diversity is there, most favorable conditions are available, that time definitely number of species may keep on increasing. Where we find those increase in the species? When there is a favorable, what we can say, the moisture, favorable temperature, favorable amount of rainfall, thick vegetation is available. All this, yes, can be seen in the tropical region only. So we can find in the tropical region, as you are keep on increasing or consideration of surface area, yes, or geographic area, you will feel that increase in the number of species. But if you consider the whole continent, mainly, yes, away from the equator, now you are going, you are increasing the surface area or geographic area, but number of species will be keep decreasing. So this is what he said, number of species, yes, may keep increasing as the amount of our surface area or geographic region may be increasing, but only up to some extent, not always. This is what we say mainly the species area relationship. So we need to understand basically. So this is again the most important, what you can say, the concept. You need to remember the values such as Z 0.1 to 0.2. What it indicates? It indicates species richness is low. Z value 0.6 to 1.2. What it indicates? It indicates species richness is very high, and the surface area also consideration is very high, mainly for the entire continent. This value is applicable. And the Z value is 1.15. That indicates it may be about a particular species like frugivores, fruit eating bats and birds of the all the nations, all the countries comes under tropical region, means very close to the equator. That time Z value will tend for 1.15. So when is the slope very slant? When the species and area relationship is there, in that number of species are less and the species are scattered, that time we can say that slant slope. When species are thickly, yes, very much high in number, compactly arranged, yes, the geographic diversity is very high, that time we get the steeper slope. Okay, why? Because the species number also increases with the surface area. So this is what we say all about mainly the species area relationship curve, which is a rectangular hyperbola, and it is given by Alexander von Humboldt. So this you need to remember properly. Well, so that we have studied mainly. So species area relationship, Y indicates what? Species richness, X indicates area. So this you need to properly remember all the points, and the Z value you need to remember properly. So Z value, three important values are given in the NCERT book, and what is the meaning of these values you need to remember. Okay, I hope all the points are very clear here. So what actually the Z indicates? Z indicates a regression coefficient. It is a correlation factors. So correlating the factors which are dependent species number, which is independent area. Okay, So S indicates species richness, A indicates area, C indicates Y intercept. All these you need to remember well. So thus in today's class we have discussed about the species yes richness and area correlation we have discussed. So in the next class we will be discussing much more interesting concepts related with the what is mainly the importance of the species in this nature and how they play important role in this nature, as well as loss of species or biodiversity, what are the causes and consequences, why it's happening we will discuss, and also conservation of biodiversity also we will discuss in the next class. Till then, take care, study well. Thank you very much.